the mold, and you certainly broke the mold more than once. To be honest with our listeners, we had chatted away here prior to this recording and got to know each other, had a lot of laughter, and actually we share a lot of experience. We had equally young married, young mother, etc. And but without further ado, let me ask Jane. Okay, Jane, when you started your career, did anybody hand it to you, or what was it like?
Well, hello, Ursula, first, and thank you for having me. When I first started my career, are you talking about the music industry or as a writer?
Yes, the music industry, because I think you left a secure job with the government.
I did.
And
Well,
jumped,
I was going to say the thing about those days was that when I was working for the government at the Foreign Office, when you got married, you had to leave. You know, we were talking earlier about sexism and all of those things. Married women weren't allowed to go abroad. So, for instance, if I wanted to go and work in an embassy, I had to leave my job because only unmarried women could go. So I left the Foreign Office and joined another government department. I worked for, what is it called now? Because it's a different name now, but it was the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Foods, which was, oh God, was it boring? I mean, no, seriously, I worked for a part of the MAF, as they called it, which was called the Intervention Board for Agricultural Produce. Which was all to do with, this is going to bore the pants off you all, but it was all to do with buying and stockpiling things for the EU, wine mountains, butter mountains, things like that. And I used to sit there and I'd be thinking, God, I'm going to go absolutely mad before long. And then my husband and I decided that, you know, he'd carry on and I'd just do the working side. So I did. I worked. I worked there. I worked for a company that made beds, and that was punching holes in cards all day long, which was, God, was it exciting. And then I went to work for the Atomic Energy Authority at Harwell, which was in those days was, I think, belonged to the government, but afterwards it became private and they would do all sorts of things then. And then I went to social services and worked for an occupational therapist. So it wasn't, you know, a jump from one career to another because we had to build up. My husband was building his band and somebody had to pay the bills. And then by that time we had a child. But in the middle of all that, we suddenly thought, you know, we could do this. We could pass on our knowledge to other musicians and people that are in the industry or starting out in the industry. So that's what we decided to do. So I just left my job. I just did it, because if you don't, you start and think about all the things, what if this and what if that? By that time we'd bought a house. Wow. So you're thinking, God, you know, you've just given up a job, a cushy job, and gone into working for yourself. And, you know, it was very, very difficult. It was frightening, actually. And I'd worked ever since I left school. I worked for the Ministry of Defence in Germany in a little village called Wetterruhr, which is in the Ruhr Valley, for a big army base there. And it was staffed by English and a few English people. And what would happen is that the tanks and the lorries and all of that. I mean, I am an expert on stripping a tank. So if you ever have a problem with your chieftain or centurion, ask me, because I used to spend all day long processing all this stuff and trying to speak German to people who had worked for the British Army for about 25 years at that time and sat in an office and pretended they didn't speak a word of English. And
so the first speak German.
I've forgotten a lot, but I can pick up words and understand the gist of the sentence the same way as I can with Mandarin and Cantonese. I'm not clever, but I seem to get a feel for the language. So I sat there all day long doing that, you know, and all these young squaddies used to come in and out and they'd blush every time they spoke to me and I'd die every time I spoke to them, and all the German staff would look up and go, what's she talking about, you know? But they could all speak English, and it was only when I left that I realised one of the girls sat opposite me was English.
Oh,
married
no.
to a German. Yeah, married to a German. And she used to speak to me in German all day. And I used to sit there nearly crying because I think the first day I started, all this work came across my desk as a secretary in German. Words that long, you know. And this lady called Frau, what was her name? Fräulein Carpentier, I think. Carpentier,
Okay.
yeah. She was about 7 foot tall, frightened the living daylights out of me. And she'd be saying to me in English, right, this is what this means, and get on with it. And I'd be thinking, well, what am I doing? Yeah. And then I'd go over to the other offices, and the people there spoke better English. And they'd be saying, oh, this is stripping down a Centurion tank, reconditioning the engine of a Thornycroft Senator, whatever they're called, Thornycroft Antar. And I was thinking, this is going to be the rest of my life. God help me. So, as I say, I went from there to the Foreign Office and on. And we decided, as I say, my husband and I, to manage recording artists, songwriters, record producers, and help with production and all of that. And so that's what we did. And we started from scratch, and we set up a little business, and we were so cheeky. I mean, you don't get anything unless you're cheeky, do you?
Yeah, you have to.
If you think you can't do something, why would I do that?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah. So one of the first things we did was we needed to let people know we're here. And so we used to do, I think it was every month? I think it was every month. We put on a show at the London Hippodrome. Okay. And at the time, the London Hippodrome was the nightclub in the world.
Oh, wow.
Peter Stringfellow owned it. And the two of us dogged ourselves up, got the look, went marching in there and said to the guy that ran it at the time, called David Miles, the general manager, we'd like to put some shows on. And he said, oh, well, what sort of things do you have in mind? And we said, well, we put rock shows on because that's what we mainly worked with. And so he said, I don't know if he thought we were cheeky, but he said, okay, how about every Friday? I think it was every month, one Friday. And you'd be there, you'd come in on the Friday night and you do the rehearsals in the morning, but you come in on Friday night, put a show on, a proper show, video recorded, everything. You'd have big stars we invited all the guys from the record companies and publishers, the press, music press, and we put these shows on. Then they'd go into the Star Bar, which is Green Room they call it now, and they'd mingle and hopefully somebody get a record deal out of it, and I mean, we were there. We've had Elvis Presley's stepbrother put a show on. He actually was the compere for us, because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Oh yeah, of course you have to.
And that was the anniversary of Elvis Presley's death, I think. And we had the Jordanaires come, which is his backing band. We had Prince there. We had Whitney Houston there. Wow. But all these people, you just ask them, right? So we did that. Bee Gees were there. We did that. And that went on for several years. And we got a few people signed from that. And then we decided that we'd try America. And so we were looking at all the time for a really good performer, or a songwriter, producer. You'll have to excuse me. I've got 6 different types of pills in me. It's making me painkillers, not drugs. Not drugs. And we decided then that we would like to actually take 1 or 2 artists and focus on them. And so we found a couple of bands and a couple of singers, and we came across a young producer and singer who were early, mid-teens, I think. And oh my God, they were so talented. It was unreal. And writing, singing and producing their own stuff. And so we went out to America, and this is where you get that thing again, if you don't try. And this was, oh God, a long time ago. And they said, we said, well, we're going to go and see if we can get you an American record deal because your music suits that market. And we went out there, we went round every single record company and movie studio, and we wouldn't talk to anybody except the guy that ran it. And because we were unusual, because there weren't many English people or anybody actually going out there and doing that, they must have thought, oh, this is fun. Let's see the English. so we went into places like Geffen and Paramount and Warner Brothers and all of them, and we saw the presidents of the record labels.
Wow.
And we produced our artists, and then we got things like, well, they got record deals and success on Billboard and all of that thing, and then we were able to get into TV production, excuse me, whereby they were producing big shows like Baywatch and what was the other one? I've forgotten now. Sirens, well, lots of things. And so we actually offered to put the music on that, because at the time they were looking, and they accepted the music from our artists for the soundtrack and all for incidentals, and even had the artists in the show at one time. You know, so I mean, it's a case of not thinking you can't do something.
Exactly.
And if you can't do it, then that's what have you lost? You know?
I mean, there are great sayings like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And it sounds crazy, but you actually can, you know, but you need to try. You need to believe in yourself, and then break out what other people think of you, or want to limit you. Oh, you can't do this, and what do you think? And, you know, do it. Just go ahead and do it. I mean, what do you have to lose?
You haven't. I mean, they don't know you, and if you don't actually work with them again, they're never going to see you again, because you won't be going back there. But I mean, but the other thing was we had record deals and publishing and that for people all over the world. But one of the other daft things we thought, but we'd try it. We were going back to Singapore, and on the way, the flight that we booked was Taiwan. You had to stop and change, you know, and we had 3 days in Taiwan. But what we did first was contact Sony, EMI, all of these record companies and publishing companies in Taiwan, in Taipei.
Yeah.
And we made appointments with them. And then when we were on the plane over, my husband said to me, I presume they speak English. Because a lot of this going on, you know. And it was a crazy situation. We had a dreadful flight from Los Angeles, because we were there at the time, over the Japan Sea. Have you ever been across the Sea of Japan?
No.
You nearly leave your seat in the aircraft.
Not that part of the world.
You nearly leave your seat in the aircraft. It's jump the whole way. You can't even spend a penny in that. I'm serious. It is distressing. You know, Singapore Airlines.
I mean, we are laughing now, but I'm quite sure the turbulences are everything else but funny. You know.
But then we get to Taiwan airport, you know, and their army. They're all in their army.
Yes.
Things. And they're all in their little cubicles, and one comes forward and you stand there like, this is before 9/11, right? So you're standing there like this, and they don't smile. They're
not allowed to. Yeah.
They just put their hand out for the passport. You pass that over, and my husband's on one side of the line and I'm on the other, and I'm thinking, the hell do I do if they leave me here on my own? And the hand comes out, looks at you, stares at you for like forever. You know, not friendly at all. And I'm thinking, shall I smile or not? Is that appropriate? Because I don't know. Anyway, you get the stamp, and I'm on the other side, and then my husband has to come through, and he's looking at this thing and looking at this thing, and I'm thinking, oh, they're not going to let me through. My heart's going like this, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And then he did come through, and he said to me, "Oh my God!" He said, "Well, that was the friendliest airport I've ever been in." Singapore is actually the friendliest, but and then we went and spent this time in Taiwan, which was so interesting, you know. It was called Formosa, and you know, when you think about Formosa, it is actually very beautiful when you get out and about. But the city of Taipei was absolutely crazy. We were about the only white people there, you know, for the first part. The second part was that when they all drove scooters, and traffic lights meant nothing. You know, the lanes and the taxi driver all the time he's talking to you is turning around looking at you. That's going on. And you think, oh, there's a red light. Oh, we went through a red light. And the cars are just going where they want to. You know, no, don't seem to give a damn about anything else. And that was really funny. But when we went into these record companies and publishers, they had little English. We have very little English. Yeah. Music is a common language, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, definitely. And look at it, mainly in English. I mean, now it's changed a little bit.
I mean, thank God you know, thank God the contracts and things were all in, well, they were from America. They were the actual parent company's contracts. So we got to do that. And we did. We had a lovely relationship with them in Taiwan for a very long time. And then we went on to Singapore after that. But you know, people said, well, why are you going to Taiwan? Well, you know why you go to Taiwan? Because the Southeast Asian market is absolutely enormous. And we had records come out in Taiwan, the Philippines, you know, where else? Oh, I'm trying to think of different countries. Well, you imagine everywhere. And we did J-pop long before there was K-pop.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to try.
And yeah, of course you
Sorry?
have to try, and you have to be international. Now
Yeah.
everybody is like it's a new invention to be international and to be worldwide. No, hell no. No. It has gotten easier. You don't have to have the traveling anymore. You could do very much through social media and electronic sources and whatever. But it's not new. If you wanted to succeed, you had to reach out and you had to travel there. And, you know, in a way, I like that because, like you just explained, what life was there, how crazy it was from coming from Europe and being exposed to the traffic, you know, it's all life experience and it's the spice of life. That's what I figure. But then after such a big career, you once again made a shift, right? Because now you are an author.
Yeah, well, you know, I think the thing is that we spent so many years babysitting young artists, usually young, and going on tours, you know, and you'd be away from home for about 9 months and you'd be working 24/7 because, you know, you don't just stop when a concert stops or stop when you finish an album. You know, that's when the work begins. And so I think after a while, you know, you just sort of think, oh God, another plane journey, or, you know, somebody's having a tantrum and you think, really, you know, I've had my kid. Do you really want to go through that again?
Yeah.
And so my husband carried on working. He went to India and worked there. And he has actually appeared in Bollywood movies.
He did?
I laughed my head off. Yeah, because I said to him, I hope you're not dancing. But he did commercials, voiceovers.
Yeah.
You know, he's actually been in films with the top Bollywood stars.
Oh wow.
And he's had speaking parts as well.
You have to point him out.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I was impressed because he went over there to do one thing and come back, and he said, "Oh, I've been offered this and offered this and offered this," and he shows me the videos. Oh my God! I mean, they've had him advertising laptops, hair dyes, being a tourist and things. He's been killed in Bollywood movies more times than you've had breakfast. You know, he's always the shady person. In fact, when he walked, he was in a movie which featured, sadly enough, which you were talking about earlier, a predator in a children's home. And he got the starring role. I know, but it wasn't funny.
No.
Yeah, because when he walked down the road, you know, Indians love movies.
Yes.
Everybody goes and watches the Bollywood movies. And he's walking down the road and people are coming up to him and saying, "You're a nasty man, you bad man. You did so and so and so." No, it was just a movie. Yes, well, I don't like it. And he said, well, I didn't actually like it. But he never did anything. He just was it was a film about a real person.
Yeah.
And when you actually watch the film, nobody knew if anything happened or not. It was just the talk of it. But he was in, I don't know, he was there when the Mumbai bombings happened. You know, he'd just been in that hotel and come out. It was Ambassador. Can't remember the name of it, but you know, he had a few sort of close calls like that. So he was doing that, and I was looking after my mother for a while, and then I thought, you know, the distance is best. I go visit. Yeah. So I've always wanted to write. When I was a little girl, I used to write, and this shows you how somebody can stop you doing something, right?
Oh,
I went to see. Yeah, went to visit a school friend. Yeah, years ago, and my husband and her husband used to play the guitars, and that we used to sit and natter in the kitchen.
Oh, and my God, forgive me. Forgot to cut off my phone.
That's okay. I did mine.
Yeah, I forgot. I totally forgot. Oh gosh. People forgive me. It's really unprofessional. I'm really, really sorry. Will not happen again. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So we were visiting this old school friend of mine. It must be about 35, 40 years ago now. And it was when laptops first came out. I can't remember when that was. And I'm tapping away there because I'd been in the studio. We had a studio down in Cornwall, and there were a few things happening there which were really funny. And I thought, oh, I've got to write this down. And over the week that we were there, it developed into what was the start of a novel. And she said to me one day, what do you keep tapping on your computer? And I said, oh, nothing. Oh, yeah, come on, let me have a look. And she was leaning over my shoulder and she read it and she said, oh, what's it for? I said, well, I'm trying to write a book. And she said, but it's not you. It doesn't sound like you. It doesn't read like you. Oh, she said, no, I don't like that. Well, I sort of put the computer away. And 30 years later, I started writing again. Yeah. But she completely...
Yeah, I know. With me, it was my teacher. Good. No, it's not. Guys, don't listen to people. At least to the other people. Listen to us. With me, it was my teacher, actually, in primary school, you know. I wrote the most fantastic stories. I love fantasy, right? Then she was never read out. Only one was read out. Never ever again did I have the chance to read out any of my stories, and all my stories had a little in the footnote saying Ursula has too much fantasy, and it really stopped me in the tracks. Like it stopped you. It stopped you because nowadays, I mean, how can you have too much fantasy? How can you? But just like you, it took me many years to start again. Like. Now I'm writing just like you, so most of us are authors. But you like crime stories, and I read that you also actually took classes in forensics and tell me.
Well, that's another thing, you see. I mean, I loved Kathy Reichs and all those writers, and I love watching real life forensic programs. And I've even watched a post-mortem about 4 o'clock in the morning once, because I thought, I'm not being ghoulish about it, but I just wanted to see. And I knew it was a person, and I never forgot it was a person. And it is quite horrific, really, when you really think about it. But I was intrigued because when they started opening everything up, it was wonderful. And I thought, you know, I'm going to be, I got published in 2012, I think, I can't remember now. And I thought, you know, I really want to do crime stories. I actually got published with a women's fiction novel with a friend of mine, and I didn't want to do that really. That came about by accident. That particular novel, because I started writing about our life in the music business, and I was going to kill somebody in it, and then it got romantic for some reason. I don't read romance and I don't write romance, I thought, and so my friend, you know, who was my husband's fan club secretary, and she was successful. We've always wanted to write together, and she said, well, let's write together something. And I said, well, you write romance and I write, you know, crime. So we, you know, oh no, I couldn't write crime, she said. And I thought, well, I can write romance, but there you are. So I forgot what we were talking about. Tell me.
that you took classes in, you know.
Yeah, because when I used to read Kathy Reichs and Patricia Cornwell and people like that, they have actually done the jobs, or they've studied it for years. And Kathy Reichs actually is a medical examiner. And I thought, you know, I'm reading the books and I'm thinking, yes, that happens. But how do you get to that point? What happens then? How do you find a body? How do you identify a body if there's nothing there except a shallow grave and a pile of bones? How do you start to work out?
Yes.
So I thought, oh, I'll take a course. And I thought, oh no, I can't go to university. I would never sit still, you know. And then I saw that there was a course that was run by the University of Dundee with Val McDermott. So it was her and Professor Sue Brown. And between them, they put together a course for writers. And
that's lovely.
Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, how much is that going to cost?
Yes.
You know? And then I thought, do I have to go to Dundee?
Yeah.
You know, all these stupid things, negative things that you try to stop yourself doing something.
Yeah, you do.
Which you should never listen to.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And so it's true. And so I looked again online, and it was free. It was a free course. The only thing you do is you pay to get a certificate at the end if you pass the course.
Yes.
So I did identifying the dead. And you basically went from a body found in a shallow grave, well, just the bones, right through to the court case where you prosecute the court. You know, you do the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's absolutely, oh, I can't tell you, so interesting. I had bits of experiments all over the show. You know, how to determine the age of soil and all this sort of thing.
Yes, yes.
And so you had to identify this person, then go through the court case, and then if it was a successful or unsuccessful prosecution, you had to analyse that. So I did that, and I think it was 2015, and I actually got through that with 90%, I think. Then I went on to another forensic course and another forensic course, and I did archaeology, because it was the first grounding of archaeology. And then I did one which was criminal justice, and that was taking a case all the way through. Absolutely loved it. It was different universities by this time.
Yeah, but no, that's great. I mean, you are really into it. Obviously, crime stories are your thing, and you really invest yourself in it. And your latest book is basically a crime story, right? Only one woman, isn't she an agent?
No, she's not. No, that's the romance. That's the romance I was talking about. But it's no, that's set in the 1968-69 music industry in UK, and it's two girls in love with the same guitarist.
Okay.
And it covers social. Yeah, we go to Germany, we go to the Mediterranean. You know, I mean, it's more than just a love triangle, really. But no, the latest one that is out is a collection of short crime stories, undercover crime shorts. And they're all a variety of different ways to bump somebody off without whoever looked at the crime scene realizing it was actually a crime instead of an accident.
Oh goodness! Oh great! So
and I had to study poisons and all sorts of ways to get rid of someone without actually, like 12 hours when the person actually drops dead.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a devious mind. But the other book that I'm writing at the moment, which is Miss Birdsong Investigates.
Yes.
I've got a series of those I'm writing, and one of them's in with the publisher at the moment. And that is quite. It's about. Well, you'd like this. It's about a former MI5 woman who was booted. She'd been in the MI5 for 20 years. And then she wanted to get to the point where she was the third director general that was a female, because there's only ever been two so far.
Yes.
And she's bumped out because something went wrong on a mission in conjunction with MI6.
Okay.
And she wanted to know, why did she get the boot? She was told to take early retirement, but basically they were getting her. Yeah. But to keep her pension, she had to go. And he got Moscow. He carried on to Moscow.
Okay.
So she wasn't very happy with that, and so she moved to a little village in a rural setting, and bored out of her mind, she starts to write. But one of the local people goes missing, and she thinks, oh, something to do at last. So she goes and investigates that, and it leads to Russian people trafficking and Ukrainian gun.
Too much.
I'm just telling you too much. It's great, but the thing is that took. Now this is another thing you should think about, right? Yeah. I started that book in 2011.
All right. And when will it be ready? Is it ready now?
It's in with the publisher. But
okay.
What I was going to say was that when I started it in 2011, my mind was on that. Then I got published with this other book because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect anybody to read it. And I put it out, with a publisher that just happened to be my friend assigned to. She'd been with the Big Five, and then she decided to come to an independent traditional publisher.
Okay.
So that book comes out first. Oh, you can't put the crime one out because we're doing this, right?
Yes.
And this is another, patience is a virtue. That was supposed to come out in 2014, and it didn't come out till 2017.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so you have to, because they kept changing editors and all sorts. But the thing is, then I had to put this other book on hold all that time because it would have been a conflict.
Yes.
And then I decided, what, to hell with it. I'm going to write the other one and finish it. So I revamped it. It went into somebody, not my normal publisher, because I thought, they obviously think of me as only one woman.
Yeah.
And this other, I was approached by an agent in America who said, I've seen your stuff. And we'd like to represent you. Would you like that? And I said, well, I don't, I looked them up, and they've television, movies, the whole lot.
Okay.
And then I thought to myself, well, why would they bother with me? What, what's the catch?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sent them, first of all, it was a synopsis and 7 pages. And then it was half a novel. Then I sent them a whole novel. And we've been working on that together. And they're looking for an American publisher for me. So then I redrafted this book more times than you've had hot dinners. Wow. But I thought I'd stick with it, stick with it, stick with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Jane, I'm just looking at the time and knowing that you have an appointment at 1:00. I would love to continue to talk to you, because it's so great. And I hope that our listeners find just the same interest that I have. I will have you back. That's a threat. I will have you back.
I'd love to come back.
And I have all your social media accounts and so on publicized on my blog, so people can look at your books, buy a romance, or wait for the new book that is coming out. There's quite a lot. And then again, you are very often in podcasts, in shows, so people can see you. So all the information will be available. But I have to be the one now to push you, because it's 12:21.
And I must go.
And you must go. So I hate to cut you. I would have loved to, but thank you for being here with us. Thank you very much, Jane. And I wish you all the best, and with a new book as well. And hope to see you again soon.
Well, it's really been a delight. Thank you so much for having me. I've really loved it, and I hope your readers and listeners actually do take something away from it. That if you don't try, you'll never know.
Exactly.
Try again.
You can't lose. You can only win. Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye, Jane.
Right. We'll talk to you soon. Yeah. Bye. Bye.